16th of May 2023. This is one of those what the fuck moments, and in this one I'm going to talk about something that I feel that not many commentators pay attention to it. I call it the SASSA Generation. How did it start? Shortly after the ANC government came into power, they instituted the child grant. Now all of us know about that child grant and we're aware of it. And so, but what? And at the time, there were a lot of people that objected to the principles behind that child grant, and there were a lot of people that urged the government to place some form of rule and restrictions on it. But as usual, they didn't pay attention, and we are sitting with a massive problem. That child grant rapidly turned into an income generator, a government-sponsored breeding program. That is what it became. Now, there is a lot of social commentators that is constantly talking about it, and a very troublesome factor in the black communities is that roughly 67% of all the children grow up without a father figure in their lives. And that is bad news, because it affects a lot of things in the children's lives. One of the most important things is that it is usually the father that installs discipline and respect in children. And with no father, that's the story. No respect, no discipline. And we see it every day. It's visible all around us. So, many people warned against this, but the government didn't listen. Why? That is a major question. Why did they not listen? They were planning ahead. They knew in '94 that the voters that voted for them at that stage voted out of loyalty and on principle. But those voters are going to die off. They also knew that freedom fighters parties rarely last longer than 15 to 20 years. So they were planning on getting voters to replace the old ones. But they could not bargain on loyalty and principle, so they went for dependence. Vote for us, or your SASSA will be gone. Don't bluff yourself. There are very clever and powerful controllers behind the ANC. These faces that you see every day on the TV and in the newspapers and so, they're not really in charge. We can see it with Cyril. The fact that he cannot make decisions tells you that he's got to get the okay from somewhere. The ANC leadership is not the brightest and the best from the black communities. The bulk of them fly on their so-called struggle credentials. They inherited a strong economy, strong industrial base, strong farming base, and an excellent infrastructure system. Most importantly, a well-organized and efficiently functional government service. In their mad feeding frenzy, all of the above started to collapse, mostly due to cadre deployment and BEE. Today we sit with a totally dysfunctional state. nothing works. Infrastructure is collapsing, state assets have been plundered into oblivion basically. As we speak, they are busy with schemes to get their hands on the state pension funds, the UIF funds, and their eyes are on the private medical aid funds as well. All the very efficient and profitable SOEs are gone. The access to loans are drying up, and the national debt is through the roof. While all the plundering happened, their stealth weapon, the SASSA Brigade, was growing up. Unfortunately, they did not check the chapter in the playbook that explained to get a loyal and committed cadre corps, you need to provide them with services, health and education primarily, and then jobs. This is where the ANC cabal slipped big time. And the SASSA Brigade grew up, fatherless, no discipline, very primitive education, poor health services, and no prospect of decent employment. So the ANC failed on the elementary stuff. In the meantime, the child grant, to a large extent, morphed into an income stream for very poor women with no future prospects, and girls of 12 and sometimes younger started breeding for bucks. The more kids, the bigger the income, without any regard for the future of those kids. Another serious disaster struck the ANC SASSA Brigade plan. The poor care of the troops made them vulnerable to other influences, and in swoops the EFF, a militant, verbose leader and a solid stream of revolutionary, racist rhetoric. And there you have it. The poorly educated SASSA troops have zero experience of what a functioning state and healthy economy look like, and they believe everything the leadership tells them. The most dangerous aspect in the SASSA Brigade is the absence of any respect and zero discipline. Just look how quickly protest turns violent and turns into an orgy of destruction. They burn buses that they expect to run more tomorrow. They burn and destroy schools and libraries and then complain about the lack of those. And then they protest again and burn clinics and hospitals, and the circle just keeps on going. They destroy roads, rails, power lines, substations, and then riot again because there is no water or transport. They plunder shops and businesses, and then the owners move away and the jobs disappear, and then they riot about that. All the time plundering and destroying. Nobody can control them. The ANC Stealth Brigade have deserted and is now a marauding horde. Universities are basically dysfunctional due to all the protests and destruction. This means that the serious students are also prevented from achieving their goals. Dropping the pass rate was a bad idea, and one of the consequences is that trade and industry no longer accept those basically useless qualifications and see the SASSA Brigade mostly as unskilled. Currently, there are around 12 million youngsters in various stages of education, and in any case, a poor education. In the system, with an estimated 3 to 4 million preschool. The economy is rapidly shrinking, and the state cannot employ as much as they used to. So, this roughly 16 million has no real prospect of a job any time in their future. What is going to happen to them? One thing is for sure, if you worked hard and invested in your children and in your future responsibly, you are in serious danger, because this plundering horde will come for what you have. So everybody in the country is in grave danger, and yet the SASSA breeding continues with zero constraint. You must remember, this SASSA generation with zero discipline and by large poorly educated are now also breeding for bucks. You do not need to be a rocket scientist to realize that South Africa as a country and a society is most probably doomed. Almost all the developing countries are investing in their populations' well-being and growing their economies. They are fighting poverty, and as the citizens' lives improve, birth rates drops, sometimes dramatically, but not in South Africa. Here it is the opposite. There's nothing being done to make the economy grow and to create opportunities. The guys are on that measly SASSA grant, and that's it. Where if they had jobs, it would have been many times more than the SASSA grants. And on top of that, it will give those people that have jobs and earns a salary, will give them a lot of self-respect. And there is no sign that the ANC actually care about this, and by definition, care about you. Lockdown was a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class to the corporations, all according to Schwab's plan. So the SME employers have been decimated, more job losses and less job creation potential in the future. Go and get yourself informed on what happened to the general population in Russia after the collapse of the USSR. Devastating poverty and unemployment, because almost overnight the state lost the bulk of its income. Social payments could not be paid, and the population sunk into a swamp of undescribable poverty. Just imagine South Africa with the government not able to pay the SASSAs. Imagine that. 17 million people is dependent on grants today. This is in our future in South Africa. We are basically out of energy, massive water issues, and the next thing will be food. And yet the SASSA breeding streams on without brakes or controls. I know they cannot stop that thing, but they can at least lay down some rules and say, if, let's say, they decide on the end of March to give notice that in 9 months' time from now, only one grant per mother, on the proviso the mother has matric. Just that. It's a small change. Just that. Think the difference it will make. Think. Reality is that the state is going to run out of money because the tax base is shrinking fast. The question remains, what is going to happen to this SASSA generation? Massive manual labor projects, or pick and shovel projects as it was called during the Great Depression, is an option, but I don't think it will work because of the fundamental obstacles in labor laws and a general reluctance of the youth to actually work. So in conclusion, like everything else, the ANC's cunning plan to breed voters failed dismally But the real tragedy is that the SASSA generation is a reality, out of control and with a hopeless future, but still here and here, and they are humans. We must never forget that. How is this going to end? I don't know. You tell me what you think is going to happen and write it in the comments. But you must think about this SASSA generation problem. It is serious, it is dangerous, and it is tragic, all at the same time. Please give me a like and subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.